What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of the Fatherhood Village podcast, the official home for proud fathers and mentors. I am Dale Holloway, hosting the show with Kev Hick. Look, shout out to you for joining us, for tapping in, supporting the channel. This is your first time. Like, subscribe, share it, do everything. All right, we're trying to get our numbers up and get to more viewers, those just like you. All right, so please help us out with that. Um, Look, we got a really good topic we're going to break down. All right, we got some good things we're going to discuss. We're getting into the idea of why is it so commonplace for parents to push their children out the house at 18. All right, we'll talk about, is it the kids' idea? Is it ours? Where does this, what's the origin story of this, right? We'll talk about if we're setting them up for success, or we trying to help them generate a intelligible plan, a smart plan once they're out of the house. And we'll talk about the impacts. All right. If it's good, if it's bad, and some things to keep in mind. All right. But before we do, y'all know what we doing. We bringing in Kev. Ask my man Kev what's going on. What's up, baby?
Man, I'm chilling, bro. No complaints.
I hear that. I hear that. How was your weekend?
Good. It was peaceful. We did a lot less this weekend, which I'm always excited to do, right? A lot less. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we're nearing the finish line on this house project, so it's just been a lot of moving around, running around, trying to cap it off. It's a lot more. They say it's calm before the storm. We're entering the storm of this portion where you got to do all the financial paperwork all over again. And, they want your firstborn's DNA sequence just to get you, so there's some of
Right.
that going on. So I'm looking a little raggedy. I have not had the time, opportunity, or give a damn to shave. I just been making moves and getting shit done.
Right. Right. That's the bottom line, man. I feel you. And that's a dream of mine. That's one of our end goals is to finally get a house built where we want it, how we want it. You know what I mean? So I'm vicariously living through you. So it's exciting just to hear the status, man, the update on it. So keep pushing. You already know it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. But yeah, we're gonna get straight to it. So this whole idea, right? This whole notion of children, leaving the house, their parents' house at 18 is something that's become a norm, right? We expect it. Either the kids want to get out, the parents are forcing them out. Why do you think this is such commonplace? Where did this kind of originate from?
I think it originates from this place of the maturation process for teenagers is sometimes a cumbersome one. Young men start to feel themselves to be men, right? They start to cross from this idea that they're boys or teenagers, and they start to feel like men. They got mustaches. They trying to have their first little piece, trying to get their
Mm-hmm.
first little sex, So they start, as my dad used to say, or my stepdad used to say, they start smelling themselves or whatever. And
Yeah.
he would say the same thing about a young woman. And I think that this quest to be more dominant in any surrounding you're in and feel more manly and more masculine often crosses the paths and boundaries of the parents who've raised you and put some work in. And so it puts the parents in an interesting position because while they want to protect you, a lot of times they don't want to be challenged in the ways that sometimes an immature teenager may challenge someone. So when you ask me about the origins, to my understanding, a lot of this started from, teenagers, just getting ahead of themselves and being very unruly and disrespectful and not wanting to fall within the boundaries of the household. And once you get to that point where you can't be guided, it feels like it's time to go. So that was often the answer to women and men alike who were having challenges and having adult issues with their pretty much underage children that were just growing up and feeling like they were adults. The problem with this is every child isn't having the same issue, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have enough unruly children, and this becomes the answer to every unruly child that has a mustache or is of sexual maturity. And then you have a bunch of children in the middle who get caught into this because it becomes culture. Oh, when you 18, you can get the hell out. When you
Mm-hmm.
18, you're an adult. You got to go. When you 18, you either go work go to military. That everybody has
Yeah.
some kind of when you 18 standard for this child. But the problem is a child doesn't know what the hell they want to be until they're like 29. Like
Right.
you really don't figure out who you are until you're damn near 30. And even then you're start trying to figure shit out, right? A lot of times
Yeah.
these parents haven't accumulated wealth or opportunities or resources or networks that could help these children. And so when you are broke or you are less established than maybe even you wanted to be, and you just kick your kid out at 18, they don't start where you are, they start where you started. So you perpetuate
Yeah.
this cycle of brokenness because you didn't provide a place and a landing pad for your child to move and navigate safely without this desperation survival that we normally get thrust into when we come from impoverished communities or lower middle class or upper lower class communities, especially
Yeah.
impoverished communities. So to your point and to your question, I think it started with unruly teenagers or teenagers who wouldn't follow the laws of the home, right? And
Yeah.
it got so popular as a result that people just started really accepting the fact that okay, once you're 18, what you're doing, what's your plan, and they put that pressure on knowing who you are on a child who hasn't figured almost anything out yet. They just got like the mustache. They just got the urge for sex. They just got
Mm.
here, and you're telling them that they need to make adult decisions. When they're really still supposed to be learning from you as
Yeah.
a parent what the adult decisions is. So there's been some good applications and some necessary applications, but this shouldn't be a thing that is applied widely into every child or every 18-year-old for that matter. Only the ones who are
Hmm.
disrespectful, unruly, and combative with their parents who are trying to do the right thing with them.
Yeah. Right. Right. Because we hear about those stories too.
Hmm.
And when I was coming up, and I'm sure you have your story too. Um,
Hmm.
Let me adjust this camera real quick. It was kind of a rites of passage, if you will, right? Whether you felt you were ready or not, it was something that, hey, I got to get my ducks in order to make this jump. And you felt good. It was a sense of accomplishment if you were able by any means to make it happen, at least for a lot of the folks that I was around.
Yeah.
And you wanted the freedom, right? You wanted the liberty, you wanted to come and go as you please. You didn't want you know, curfew. You didn't want to be told no, and so you kind of got ahead of yourself, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if I really was adamant about staying, my mom, my stepfather, they would have really had no problem, right? As long as it was understood, it was a mutual understanding. Um, and I went to school and you did, and it was like, all right, we're coming into this new realm of adulthood, and we
Hmm.
kind of have to, obviously take what we learn and obviously come up with a certain structure for ourselves, right? To kind of fit into society and you don't want to your first night out for a party and then you getting arrested. You want to kind of follow a certain
Hmm.
pathway to manage yourself. But from I knew I wasn't ready, like you had told. When you just spoke, I knew things weren't figured out. No one really has anything figured out at 18, right? You just don't
Yeah.
want to live under the guise of your parents, be under their roof
Hmm.
and ask a whole bunch of questions. So it's kind of like trying to figure out what's worth it. And
Right.
it's a lot of pride. A lot of men, women have it too. And once I had my taste of school, things didn't work out. Right, I came back home, and it was cool. Right, there was they knew I was trying to strive and better myself and put myself in situations to develop. And long as they knew I had a plan, that's another thing I want to talk about. Long as they knew I was trying to structure a plan and follow through with it, they were pretty much hands off, right? So
Hmm.
about this plan, so it was on me really to see my plan through. I mean, they help in different ways, but it wasn't an overbearing way. It was like, hey, if you come to me with something, we'll figure it out. But they're not, putting that pressure on you to do what they tell you to do. It's almost like, look, whatever questions you have, I'm here to work and work it out
Hmm.
with you. But this is your life. Like you 18 now, you know what I mean? So I think it was it wasn't a process getting to 18 as far as finding out a plan. That the only thing we talk about is college, right? Or hey, you're gonna
Mhm.
develop some type of trade, some type of skill, go to trade school or what have you. And if it's not that, I mean, unless you're an athlete, it's not a whole lot that we're talking about. So I think for us moving forward, I'm gonna give it back to you, is defining a plan for your child, right? And for those that have more than one child, these plans are going to look different.
Mhm.
And being able to adjust as they get older, because we had a discussion about the the King Richard movie, right? And
Yeah.
how he had a plan developed, before they were even conceived. It seemed like. So how do we kind of take that idea, obviously make it more realistic and practical, and apply it to today, knowing that we didn't have anything remotely close.
I think it's really important to be collaborative from early on, right? What I noticed, even as a child myself or as a teenager, is a lot of parents didn't really collaborate or give any input or have any good ideas or bounce anything off of their children or have the dialogues about the next steps, right? You put it on the teachers to guide your child to adulthood, and they can only guide your child to a university. You know what I'm saying? Like that's really
Yeah.
and if they're a special teacher, if they're a unique individual, one of those one in a million teachers, then yeah, they can have a great impact. But at that point, you're requiring parenthood of that teacher. And so for me, I think the biggest thing that we need to do, and the biggest thing that I'm going to attempt to do as my child, reaches age, is I'm going to try to collaborate with him on figuring out who he is and what that means for him. Before he gets to the age of 18, where the world expects him to know, right? And
Hmm.
I won't certainly expect him to know. Um, I think that it's important to adjust the way you parent as your child grows older, as to give them space to figure out who they are without like sometimes a lot of parents will put additional pressure on their older children to be adults. You're an adult now. You're an adult now. Well,
Hmm.
wait a minute. You just figured out who the hell you was probably 5 or 6 years ago. You know,
Right.
let's give me space. Like, and instead of like, you know, kind of giving them grace and giving them guidance, sometimes the police, the not police, the parents get a lot more stern and a lot more combative, and they feel challenged even just by the presence of an adult in the house, right? A large teenager, 18, 19-year-old in the house. So
Hmm.
they start to change the way they treat that child. Now they're not a child, right? So they're talking to them a little bit rougher, and they're trying to maintain control in ways that don't necessarily have to happen, right? And so for me, as you know, to your question of developing a plan, the first plan needs to be to collaborate before you're there, right? Piss poor
Hmm.
planning is what most of our issue is, and why most people struggle into adulthood, right? Which is why the first year you don't live with your parents, or the first year you move out or you get kicked out or whatever happens is usually the worst and brokest year of your life. For me, it was
Yeah.
2005 going into 2006. Man, that was the brokest year, the most struggliest, shittiest year ever. I couldn't afford. Me and Jarrell would go to the damn McDonald's, and this was shit was still $1, and we would have $3. We would have to split a sandwich down the middle. I get a whole sandwich, he get a whole sandwich. We'd split the third one down the middle. Like we was dollar menu broke because
Oh yeah.
we were both out the nest too early with no plan, no not knowing who we were. And while our parents could say, you should go to college, that's not going to give me the, you know what I'm saying, like that ain't the only
Yeah.
answer, right? So college can only get you through the semesters that you either stay at college or you're living at home in a safe environment doing your homework for college.
Hmm.
It doesn't prepare School doesn't prepare you for life, and I think that that's something that are is missed on parents. Middle school, high school, freshman year of college, none of these things prepare you for life. They prepare you to
Right.
get a job and go work for somebody. But until you have a job that's worthy of your time, worthy of your focus and worthy of your commitment, which doesn't happen until you get well into your career after you figured out who the hell you are. Until you get a job worthwhile, you don't have any applicable use for what you've learned from middle school to college, right?
Yeah.
So all the time you were supposed to be picking up life skills and be finding out who you were, what your passions were, what your purpose in life was, what job would ignite your purpose in you so that you can actually move within that purpose and find some answers to some of these questions and be motivated to stay on task and become all you can be.
Hmm.
We don't get any of that training. We just get a bunch of academia, and then our parents think, well, that should be enough. They should learn. They should know what they want to do now. But that's
Yeah.
not how that works, because you
Yeah.
don't know enough about you to decide what you want to do, right? And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of issues. But to your point and to your question, parents need to collaborate with their children from the age of 12, 14, to try to figure out who that child believes themselves to be, who that child hopes to be, what type of person that person hopes to be, what type of impact. Try to find the passions and the hobbies and the inspirations that their child might hold in their heart. Get a little bit away from this idea that academia itself, in and of itself, by itself alone, is going to make you a successful person or a happy person. I know a
Yeah.
lot of valedictorians and 4.0 kids who grew up to be drug addicts because they actually never got life skills. They never knew who they were outside of getting good grades on homework, which teachers praise, but is
Hmm.
really kind of useless. It tells me that you have a great work ethic, and you can take that work ethic anywhere sometimes. But is if as soon as you don't get that instantaneous feedback of a good grade, some people fold because they don't have the life skills or the resiliency, right? So collaborating with your child about the human being they will be outside of the academics is a part of the biggest solution you could provide this. But also, like, as a parent, I know that there are things that my son can do to set himself up financially. There are things that
Hmm.
he can set himself up professionally. There are things that he probably doesn't want to do. There are paths he might not want to take. It's not just about helping your kid good grades so they can go to college. It's about helping them plan their life. But that requires dialogue, right? That requires
Yeah.
that intentional parenting, not necessarily the automatic, how was school today, did you get good grades, what universities did you apply for. That don't
Hmm.
give a child a plan. I know a lot of people that graduated from college has never used a damn degree a day in their life because they went to school just to tell everybody that they was going to school, and they graduated to tell everybody that they was graduating, and they did what their parents wanted, but nobody had an actual plan for how they would live their lives, or move and operate within their purpose, how they would know
Hmm.
and become who they were going to be. So
Right.
playing your child's life with them, playing your child's humanity with them, get into the personhood of who they are, and make sure that whatever they're trying to do is in complement to who they are, so that they're motivated to do it by being themselves instead of trying
Yeah.
to be everybody else's academic scholar.
Exactly. Big facts. And I know, and you kind of alluded to this, kind of the culture and what's surrounding us, right? What everyone's talking about. We use schooling and education as this measuring stick, right, to kind of
Yeah.
gauge our success. But in reality, what are we defining success? Within the household. How are we defining that within the household, right?
Right.
And like you said, it starts with that collaborative effort, that concerted effort with your child, right? So whatever
Hmm.
we feed into them, they want to turn back around and show the results and um,
Hmm.
you know, be this child that you're speaking life into, right?
Hmm.
So and like I said, this is no fault of our parents, right? I know they gave what they were used to, right? And
They
it
just fall
wasn't
within the system.
right, right. So it was common. It was ubiquitous, ubiquitous within the nature of society at that time. And
Hmm.
now, like I said, now that we're exposed to more, we're tapped in more in this information age. We're more privy to things that our parents weren't at the same age, right? So I
Right.
think we
Right.
have to use that and leverage that type of knowledge, that type of awareness, and get them going
Hmm.
early, like you said, 12, 14. I would even try younger than that if they're ready.
Yeah.
And like you said, we talked about this in other episodes, just exposing them to more, introducing
Hmm.
them to other things, and tapping into your network, right? You know,
Yeah.
individuals that, have a career in XYZ, and he like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not sure my child would be interested, but hey, if there's an opportunity, let's pull up at this
Hmm.
company, or see what this entrepreneur has going on, or maybe this nonprofit, structure. They want to see how
Yeah.
this is, operated. So all kind of things they should be at the front door of, right?
Exploration is key to finding your passion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely. But that comes from the parent. That's you. That's you
Yep.
deciding you're gonna try some shit. That's
Yep.
you. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? I didn't know to
Mm-hmm.
do that.
And
I didn't
yeah,
know
and
to
just
do
and
that.
just doing it, right? Sometimes we our children, sometimes we have to shake the dice and do things kind of spontaneously. Sometimes we try to predict what our child might have an inclination of, or to try to sense a pattern, like, okay,
Mhm.
they're kind of going into this direction. Let me kind of, force them. But we don't want to pigeonhole. Sometimes we can just whoop, we gonna go way on the other side of the field on this one and see how they adjust and they react. Um, and that's the time to experiment when they're young, when
Mhm.
it's really inconsequential.
Yeah.
Um, and like you said, this is really with the everything is predicated on, public schooling, right? The schooling system. So we're operating in that manner, and they're, like I said,
Mhm.
kind of just locked into that idea, right?
Mhm.
They're indoctrinated, and so are we, in a
Yeah.
lot of ways, generally speaking. So it's like whatever the school is guiding our child, and less,
And we got
what
them
we
to
have in
school.
mind. Right, right. So they're kind of taking, the kids, and guiding them how they want, like you said, and going to the idea of them becoming employees, right?
Mhm.
And that's,
Which is
not
fine
not to
if
knock
that's
not
what
to
you
knock
want to
yeah,
do.
not to knock that. But again, just like we know, everything isn't for every child. A job might not be what's best for them, or going to college might not be, something that best suit them. And then we wasting money, we wasting time, energy, resources. It's all going in vain because we didn't take the time necessary early in life, right, to create
Yeah.
something, um, that they can fast track to.
Yeah.
But like I said, we talk about this in the military, and that was the first time I heard of it, was SMART goals, right? Things that are
Yeah. Yeah.
specific, measurable, achievable,
Attainable,
relevant,
realistic,
and time bound,
trackable,
right?
or time bound. Yeah.
Right, right. So, really, really giving us a guided structure in creating these plans, because some of these plans are just wishes, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes these plans take a while to really form.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do my child. I know you don't either. Nobody does want to, do them a disservice of not getting things in line for them now.
Hmm.
And then I feel like I'm in the best position. My family's in the best position right now, and anybody is. But I think right now, because my children aren't in school, in traditional school, they're homeschooled right now. It's up to us right now. It's very imperative that they have this free time. And
Hmm.
I say free time because we dictate how they spend their time. We
Absolutely.
need to, plan these trips and plan these arrangements for them
Hmm.
now, and make it a common thing, right? Make it something that we
Yeah.
do, routinely. That way they're expecting it and they're wanting more. They want to go about this in a certain way, and creating this environment so they don't want anything different. Like, hey, what type of, enriched type of field trip are we taking today? Because they're not
Right.
gonna get this in school. And um we had them tour school. We toured together. It was one school, and I don't want to put every school in one box, but they were like, "Meh." And it's funny
Yeah.
because the teacher that was giving us the tour, the guided tour, she asked, "Hey, so you ready to start school?" And she was like, she did not answer, and I thought that was smart because she didn't want to give,
Hmm.
a false answer. She didn't want to
Hmm.
lie to herself, so it was something that, she kind of had the emotional intelligence to, like, you know what, I'm not even gonna say something that I'm
Um.
unsure of,
Yeah.
right?
She gonna be funny, man.
Yeah, it was funny. It was like literally 5 seconds of silence, and when we end up speaking up, but
Yeah. Hold that
but
awkward moment.
Right, right. Embrace
Yeah.
the silence. But yeah, so along with this topic, what are some other impacts? And we kind of touched on it too, but what are some impacts for the child if they were to maybe stay at the house, right?
Yeah.
Maybe get used to being in a home, and they kind of maybe they get 25, or when is there a time for a child to finally depart the house as
I think
opposed to leaving too soon?
I think that the first thing I would have said I would assume we should do, right, and the first thing I plan on doing is, to your point, um, defining success for my child, figuring out what they want to do, like not what they want to do professionally, but how they want to live their life, right? Like my child, my oldest child is homeschooled, and so we do a lot of life skills. Like we don't
Yeah.
just teach them ABCs and one, two, threes and words and spells and definitions and all that bullshit. We teach them about life, man. Every day before I put my son down, who are you?
Mm,
Like shit, serious. Hey, yo, who are you? Whose opinion do we care about? What matters in this house? You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
What type of man do you want to be? We having life skill. We planning who he's going to be with him, collaborating with him. What do you want for your life? What makes you happy?
That's
We trying
powerful.
to we trying to make sure that he's always in tune with what his plan is for him, not what the system's plan is, not whatever indoctrination the school might give him. I want him to have a sense of self. That's the first thing. And you do that from the child at the time they're young. As far as you know, giving them the tools to be great, you have to figure out what greatness is for your child. So if you got a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, an 18, 19-year-old, the first question you ask a child that has no direction is, what does success mean to you?
Hmm.
It might mean go to school and get good grades, but does it really, or is that your indoctrination? Now, if
Yeah.
it is, that's wonderful because if you want to be a vet and you need to probably graduate at the top 10% of your class to become a great vet or a doctor or a lawyer, or, if that's what you want to do and that's your passion is helping people in that way or helping animals or whatever you want to do. But what
Hmm.
if you just I don't want you just in college for the hell of it, not knowing what you think success is for you, because a lot of people reach the proverbial success and then feel like failures and are ultimately very unhappy.
Yeah.
Some of the richest people in dentists are extremely successful, but they have in many years led the suicide category as a
Mm,
profession. And dentists are
yeah.
rich because dentists don't have to treat people that don't have the money. Dentists make more than doctors a lot of times
Yeah.
because they don't have to treat you. They could just make the money and turn you away. But they often lead the suicide category among professions. So success, it might not be money for your child. Success might be emotional freedom. Success might be time, right? Control of time. Success might be just doing what they love. Success, first of all, needs to be knowing what you love, which is why you experiment throughout the adolescence of a child. But once your child determines what success is for them, say, Dad, I want to make a lot of money. Okay. Well, what do you love to do the most? I don't, man, I really love cutting hair. Okay. Well, you can make a lot of money owning a barbershop. Maybe you can own a chain of barbershops. Damn, that's a good idea, Dad. You can work in one if you want to, if you really like cutting hair, or you can just own a bunch of them. You know what? That's a good idea, Dad.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go get my barber's license. I'm gonna get my business license. I'm on this. I can't wait. I've been cutting my friend's hair all high school. As it's going down. Now your child has some direction, but you collaborated with them. You helped them. You help guide them because they don't have the answers. They don't have the experience. But it's our job as parents to become enough that as our children grow older, we can give them something. Right? Too often
Yeah.
we don't make a concerted effort to become enough to learn more, right? And even explore our own dreams. So we can't even pass that to our children like, hey, listen, I've always wanted to do this. When I finally did it, it was amazing. Life is different because I do what I love. We can't even give our children that because many of us must as parents do what we have to do, not do what we love to do.
Yeah.
um and so like it's not the fault of the parent, it's the experience of the parent. You can only really teach somebody, what you have experience doing or what you've read about, and you really can't teach it if you've only read about it. You got to get them around someone who's done it. And so for me, all that to say, Figure out what success means to your child, whether it's emotional, whether it's financial, whether it's energetic, whether it's social. Figure out what they value. Once you determine what a person values, then ask them, okay, what do you love to do? If you could do anything in the world for free, but you had to do something every day, what would you do? If you didn't
Mhm.
need money at all, what would you do every single day for free? I don't know, Dad. I think I might draw. Okay, dope. Dope. There's a lot of people make a lot of money drawing pictures.
Yeah.
Say what? Yeah. Now we know what you want to do. Right now we know what you want to be when you grow up. Now we
That
know,
passion. Yeah.
what give but we're trying to locate the passion, because a passionate person is going to outperform a talented person every step of the way, because a passionate person
Mhm.
going to be dedicated, and a passionate person doesn't need inspiration because they have dedication. Right? Dedication will get you so much farther than inspiration. Inspiration will get you two steps out the door, and what we try to do is inspire our kids to go be great, but inspiration is
To
momentary.
get it started, right.
Right. Inspiration is momentary. Inspiration is, doctors make a lot of money, and I ain't never thought about being a doctor in my life, but I'm feeling really broke right now. You say doctors make $4 million a year, and all of a sudden I'm inspired to go be a doctor. The next morning I wake up and I don't want to be no damn doctor.
Yeah.
Inspiration has left me. But when you give a person who is already passionate a great idea, they immediately are dedicated to that because they can focus in on it, because it agrees with them, right? And
Yeah.
they can take discipline so much farther than inspiration. They can take dedication so much farther than inspiration because it's attached to them, right? It's
Mhm.
about performing the person they are on a daily basis for money. So when we kick our kids out when they're 18 because they haven't figured it out yet, they're not going to figure it out in a survival state working at rallies. They're not going to figure it
It's
out
not a
pushing grocery
priority.
carts.
Mm-mm.
Because now you made survival the priority and
Yeah.
not chasing the dream, not even discovering the dream. You've made paying these bills, working for whomever doesn't give a shit about your child. You made minimum wage work the priority for your child's life because you wanted
Mhm.
them to get out of your way, because basically, and a lot of times it's we really just either can't handle them. We don't want the relationship to evolve because we refuse to see them as adults and give them a little bit more respect and a little bit more leeway. We want to treat
Mhm.
them as children. You in my house, you gonna do what I say. And it's like, okay, but I'm not 7. Can we evolve this? Nah,
Yeah.
that's my house. See, sometimes these parents need to, let you raise I'm raising my son to be strong. I'm not raising my son to be no weak man who gets talked down to. So I can't talk down to him because
Mhm.
I don't want him to be accustomed to motherfuckers disrespecting him.
Yeah.
When my son has a problem with me, I want him to say, "Hey, listen, Dad, you don't have to do this with me," or "I really don't like when we have this problem," or "This makes me feel bad when he's." I want him to be able to say stuff to me. My wife want him to be able to say stuff to me because when he's older, I need him to be able to speak up for himself. Too many times, these parents not only do they kick their kids out for being what they believe to be unruly, when these children are really just trying to explore adulthood by standing up for themselves and
Mhm.
giving themselves the opportunity at the strength that parent was supposed to be putting in them or tried to put in them, but they won't let them exercise within the house. We got some backward shit going on, and not that parents are inherently wrong, but they just don't know because they're not aware, because we're not intentional. We survive day to day to day to day to day, and then we expect to have great children who just know what the hell's going on. When we don't know what the hell's going on, and we just getting through the day's schedule, right? We
Right.
have to slow ourselves down, be more intentional, help our children discover who they are, what life means to them, what success means to them, what their passions are, and only after they have a clear plan and or they're already doing what they're passionate about for money should they be getting put out of our house, unless they are just completely unruly and those kids exist and fuck them. I mean, to be quite honest, um, if they're not doing that though, if they're not one of them out of control, you don't know me, you don't know me, Maury Povich kids, right? Then give your children some space as long as they're respectful to explore the adulthood without needing to pay bills or needing to pay Joe Schmo. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have our children a financial plan. We know finances, or we're supposed to know finances by the time they're
Most
adults.
most of
We
us really don't.
we don't. So we can't
Yeah.
help them develop a financial plan. We work for people we don't like, so we can't help them develop a professional plan. We
Mhm.
haven't learned about who we are until really right before we had the kids, or we're trying to discover it right now, which is
That,
another
that
reason why parents
that's the
push
big
kids
part.
out.
Yeah.
because parents are trying to figure out who they are, and they can't do that while they're trying to worry about a child. So they try to quit parenthood early so they can finally be an individual again. Right. So some people don't want to be parents. They're tired of being parents and they want to be over with. So they
I,
kick
I
their
think
kids
that's
out
a
for that.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons, right? Just trying
Yeah.
to, have that space back, right? You felt like, hey,
Yeah.
I did my time. I did that
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
I want to get my marriage back, right? You know what I'm saying? We trying to go vacation, do all the
Yeah.
things that we felt that we missed out on. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make up for lost times, right?
Yeah.
And and it's dual sided, right? Because the kids feel the same way. I feel the same way. Hey, I ain't trying to get in y'all way. I'm trying to do me too, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough, right? Like you said, that's where the collaboration, right? That's where that relationship needs to evolve, right? And
Mhm.
we had to be on different uh on different set of terms, because now, okay, we have an adult in the house, right? And
Mhm.
there's going to be a different set of expectations. There's going to be a different level of understanding. As long as the respect there, like you said, you talk about the unruly kids, and that's a whole nother topic, right? But for the sake of the argument, we'll just say we had some just decent 18-year-olds in the house.
Mhm.
Um, maybe, hey, you set some financial goals for the child. Say, hey, once you get to this uh figure, then we'll start, hey, let's get some help around the house as far as groceries or whatever. But if you're trying to take from what the child doesn't even already have,
Right.
because there's rules you setting up, and it reminds me of of when when America had the Emancipation Proclamation, and the slaves were freed. They were no longer chattel slaves, but they were in a society which they didn't have anything,
They didn't have a
and you
motherfucking
expect
thing.
them to produce, you know what I'm saying, in society with what? Like, you didn't set me up. I don't have any prior knowledge of what's going on out here, like you said.
Mhm.
And that was a great thing you brought up with setting your kids up with life skills early, right? They'll
Mhm.
get to the formal education sooner or later. They'll pick that up, no problem. But trying to enable them, empower them early, and to think of that question, who are you? That's a question I
Who
didn't
are you?
answer until I was an adult. Like, who really? Yeah, I mean, who am
Mhm.
I for real? Like, that's, what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
beyond a superficial thought of who you are. It's like it's more deeper than that, right? Just defining your purpose in life. And that's
Yeah.
something, like you said, even as adults, we kind of struggle with, and we thought we knew, and I think it's a little different now. Life happens, you go through different
Mhm.
experiences and trials. But like you said, just feeding that into your children's psyche early, man, that's putting them above a lot of their peers, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that they kind of center back into this topic. Um, and I know I'm gonna kind of struggle with it too, as far as like, how are we going to be comfortable in the home with our child wanting to experience adulthood, like you said, wanting to go out, wanting to do this and do that. And I'm a helicopter dad, right? And I'm really trying to reserve and work on that, because I'm the type that, like, where you say you're gonna be, I'm about to pull up and not say nothing. Or, she at this house, let me see if she,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
probably my daughter more than my son, but it really should be more even. But yeah, so it's really trying to find that common ground with the parent and the child when they become 18, 19, um and and trying to make it more comfortable for both, parents and
Mhm.
child. It's tough.
I think a lot of us struggle with the adjustment because we just see that child we was holding and feeding milk at 2 in the morning, right? You know what
Man,
I'm saying? Like
yeah.
we never really get around that. And so again, learning how to mature your relationship, or at least assist in the maturation of that relationship as they become older, respect their new phase, right? Talk
Mhm.
to them with like they 12 and they 20. Yeah, y'all gonna butt heads, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
also sometimes parents are so preoccupied with their survival, and this is another thing that's not necessarily their fault to a degree, right? It's like, if I'm not the person I wish I was, and I'm surviving, and I've survived and I keep you alive, So we both survive, and you age as we are in survival. I didn't get to fully explore, myself. So how can I guide you? I didn't get to,
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff I don't know, I'm not aware of. So survival is the way of life, not thriving, not exploring, not conquering, but just like making it. And so, you get out and make it like I got. Nobody helped me. We hear this shit all the
Yeah.
time from people. Nobody gave nothing to me. You need to get out there and figure it out.
That's not
No,
it, man.
you're setting your children up
That's
for
why we in the
failure.
state we in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the black condition. The black condition is all the slaves got freed and they ain't have a damn thing. We was promised 40 acres and a mule. For those they actually gave the 40 acres and a mule to, the KKK and lynch mobs repossessed that shit as soon as Lincoln got killed,
Yeah. Yeah.
immediately. And then they gave the slave masters reparations for the inconvenience of losing their slaves, and we didn't have anything. So now we're what, 5, 6 generations away from this, and we haven't accumulated because those were the parents. The
Yeah.
parents did what did they know besides a sterilized environment on a plantation, which deliberately kept them from the knowledge of how to function, right?
Mhm.
So if you don't end up as a Black Wall Street investor or a Black Wall Street citizen, if you're not one of those slaves lucky enough to be in that place before it was burned down by lynch mobs, you didn't get any financial education. You didn't have the reference to see us doing these things, accomplishing these things. Your generational trauma is always poverty, right? And your knowledge base is always poverty. And what do you pass into your children? Poverty. We never got financial education. To this day, most of the men I know, me, you, pick a person, man. Most of us didn't have parents. We, even those of us who had great parents, didn't have parents who had acquired enough early enough to educate us about how to live life from the financial basis or how to move within the system successfully and effectively, right? While
Mhm.
being who we were, while being the human that we wanted to be, right? We all have this cookie cutter. Go get this degree, work for this man over here at this particular type of job, and that's how you be successful. But our generation is different. That's what I appreciate about our generation. But when I left, I was set up for failure, but I set myself up, and my mom didn't put me out. They always said you could stay as long as you want,
Mhm.
uh, as long as you do, working or you going to school. I'm like, okay, but what? But they didn't make it more comfortable. Like they didn't allow me. They didn't need to make it more comfortable because they didn't owe me that at that point. They did their thing, but they made it uncomfortable. Like they would deliberately make it uncomfortable. So they were saying you can stay as long as you want, but then they was literally sabotaging the experience by looking for conflict, right? And trying to handle me
Mm.
like an adult when I was just trying to avoid all conflict because it wasn't helpful. And it was just like, you know what, I can't take this constant, you're an adult, so now we're going to mishandle you type of thing, right? And so I
Mm.
ended up the day I decided I was leaving. I pulled out the driveway, fully expecting to never ever return. I was like, you know what? Not like not talk to them again, but never live there again.
Yeah.
I was welcome to the house. I just decided I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't want to fall out with my mom because of the way she was handling me being an adult.
Mhm.
Um, and I wasn't doing nothing. I wasn't sneaking girls in the house. I wasn't staying out all night. I followed every rule.
Mhm.
But they would gripe about cleaning and this, that, and other. But it would always be really hostile, like trying to handle me like a man. It just was weird
Okay.
because
Yeah.
they wasn't respecting that I was a man, and they was overcompensating for what they thought was going to be disrespect, but that wasn't what was coming from me.
Mhm.
Anyway, I remember the day I pulled out of the driveway, I got the deposit money for my new apartment in my hand, and I'm about to go get the money order and go and get this apartment I already looked at. Been looking at apartments. I was gonna move, have a whole apartment, not even say nothing. I literally was just gonna like literally just be like, not come home one day and be on my
And
couch
one
in
day
my
and they
apartment. And I
uh,
remember I remember on the way to go sign the lease for my new apartment, I got called by my temporary job on the 30th day of a 30-day temporary job. Had I gone to work that night, I would have been a full-time employee with benefits and a union membership. On
Mm.
day 30 of a 30-day temp service, they told me
They
I was no
cut you,
longer needed. Do not return to the premises. Security will be on standby.
bruh. The exploitation.
Yeah,
Oh my,
yeah, yeah. They played me, bro, because I had everything ready. And you know what? I still didn't go home. I still never returned, but
using
that
the
put me
whip.
on that yeah, I was in the whip. But then
Yeah.
I ended up going to my cousin's house
Oh, okay.
because she had a little boyfriend, so she had beat me out the house about a month. So she had just got the apartment. I was going to get the apartment pretty much next door to her, but I ended up having to live on her couch for a little bit and bounced around for about 4 months while I was getting my shit together.
Yeah.
But that's how I started adulthood. So 05, '06, man, '06 was the brokest I ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have stayed home comfortably, stacked my chips, got some financial education, learned about myself. But they didn't know what I didn't know, and they didn't really know either. And so
Hmm.
I couldn't get that from them because they didn't have it to give. And the only thing they were intentional about was bitching at me about the dishes or whatever chore they thought I wasn't doing enough of because I was grown.
Yeah.
So it's just like, man, I can't. And so, yeah, we set ourselves up and we set our children up for failure, but it's not
Like
my mission.
how much of that? That's the question. Not to cut you off, but
Mhm.
we talk about the balance, but it's like you obviously as a parent you got to control your temperament, right? Um,
Yeah.
and it's how much of it is on us and how much of it is shared with the child, right? Because
Mhm.
we want them to have the necessary tools and resources to do things and try things and kind of let go in a lot of ways, right?
Mhm.
Because they'll double back and say, "Hey, I ain't got no place to live." Like in yours case, hey, they cut me from the job and laid off, and your parents
I
like,
couldn't go
"Man, we
back without
just
no job.
we just transform your room to the damn workout spot. God
Yeah,
damn.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, you
I
got
didn't
this
even.
couch over here.
I just went over there and worked out. I didn't even tell him. I just went over there and worked out. The hell with it. I was good.
Yeah,
Because I wasn't going back.
and right, it just yeah, your ego, man,
Mhm.
your manhood was like, bro, we ain't doing that. We once we
Yeah.
leave, we gone.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking if we're so adamant as parents to have our child on their way at 18 or you know somewhere near that age, we have to equip them
We have to
and
equip them.
all forms of the capacity necessary, right? So financially, like what do you think? Put yourself in the child's shoes, get an idea of what it costs to live as a 18, 19, whatever age you set up for them
Mhm.
to live, right? And to sustain
Mhm.
themselves so they can have a decent paying job, work toward their schooling, education, whatever endeavor that they choose, and kind of leave you the hell alone. If that's what you want, like if you want to,
Mhm.
be needed very seldomly, how are we setting the child up to do that, right? Um,
Right.
what are some things that the guidance we need them to follow? What does that pathway look like? Because if
S-
go ahead.
So I think a cool ass plan would be, and what I hope to give my son in the opportunity, like logistically. Like right now we're building a house. We've bought a house before. They always want you to have 3 to 6 months mortgage
Okay,
in
yeah.
the bank, just in case you fall on hard times, you can pay that mortgage. They always wondered about that mortgage, right? Well,
Mhm.
it would probably be a good idea to before your kid moves out, make sure they got an extra 3 to 6 months, probably 6 months, because they'll come back. You don't want them to coming back. So probably let your kid work their full time job because everybody's working, right? While they trying to
Mhm.
figure it out because they want their little shoes, they got to go on their dates. They getting they working. So let your
Yeah.
child save up 6 months of emergency fund, and you
Mhm.
hold that emergency fund, right? That way, just in case they haven't developed a financial literacy or acuity or education or just wisdom in the decisions they make, they don't get out and be like, oh man, I really need a couch. Let me go on my emergency. Oh man, I really need these shoes. Let me go on my
And
emergency.
it's
You
wiped
know,
clean. Yeah.
no, say, listen, if you gonna move out, this the plan. You save up 6 months of the rent amount that you're gonna owe. I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm gonna secure it. That way, if you gotta come to me, we need to make some plans. Now I can help you get shit back on track. You're not just gonna blow through it and then be like,
Yeah.
oh dad, I spent it all. Shit's been bad. I
I
didn't want to
tricked
take
it
no,
off.
listen. Right. Or you're not gonna
Yeah.
mismanage it.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be yours. You're gonna save it. I'm gonna hold on to it so that if you fall into trouble, you can get that back. What we gonna
Right.
do with that money, right? We're gonna have it in a secure account.
Hmm.
You know, I can even put it in one of my accounts, gaining interest. You could figure out what to do with the money, even if you don't do nothing but hold it in your sock drawer for your child. At least they have that to fall back on, and they learn the
Hmm.
financial lesson without putting an eviction on their record. They learn the financial lesson without
Yeah.
actually being somewhere on their.
Hold on, Kev. I think you can you
Oh,
hear
okay,
me?
okay, okay. My bad. So I put
You
the
hit something?
I accidentally clicked the mute button. My bad. I don't know what
Oh, you
I don't
good?
even
Yeah.
know how.
So rewind about three sentences.
I said so the first thing is helping them get that emergency fund, right? So they don't have to come
Hmm.
to you and say, "Man, Dad, if they do come to you, Dad, man, I lost my job. I need that first month." Okay, cool. We're gonna put that first month in. I'm gonna pick you up Tuesday. We're gonna find you something else. Let's get the plan going on. You know who you are. You know what you want to be. There's some other options to do it. There's always another way. Come on, let handle this together, son. And that's how you do that. You want to make sure that your son or your daughter has support coming into adulthood, that they don't feel like they
Yeah.
can't come to you. You want to, that's when you need the most support, is when you're entering adulthood. So financially, uh 3 to 6 months savings, preferably 6 months emergency savings that you hold on to, because they probably gonna fuck something up and gonna need it,
Yeah.
right? After that, you need to make sure you figuring out what their plan is as far as financial, how they managing their own money, right? Help them establish a financial plan for themselves. You also want to make sure
Looking
that
at their banking statements. Like, look, I see
uh,
you tripping on this. Why you
yeah,
spend 400 on this?
yeah,
Ask questions and have them like, I, scrutinize their own plan that they have. Right.
yeah, and in adulthood, they might say, "Well, I don't want you seeing that part, Dad," which is fine. But we're gonna have these discussions, and you're gonna lead it with this wisdom. You can go look at your own shit if you don't want me to see it, that's fine. But you need to learn. You need to take every tool you have about investment, compound interest, logistics, right,
Mhm.
planning, just life, man. And during that first year that they are moving outside of the house, man, you need to mentor your child into adulthood. So
Yeah.
instead of saying, "Oh man, you moved in, you're an adult now," it's probably even good to set up a weekly meeting with your son to just make sure, how's adulthood treating your son, how's independence treating you. Let's go over some things, make sure your plan working out. You
Hmm.
really need to coach them into adulthood, and then have their financial backup, right? Have their support backup. And then if they need to come back to you, you know exactly where they went wrong. They know exactly where they went wrong. Y'all can develop a plan together, because the point is, when they have children, you don't want your children, and at that moment, you don't, again, I don't want my son to start where I started. I want him to start where I finished.
Hmm.
Right? They can't. Yeah, I don't want him to start. My fucking first job, I made $6.10 an hour. You think I want my son making crumbs? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I made
them some.
550 at
Yeah,
McDonald's.
yeah, them some. Well, I actually made five like 25, I think, on my first job, my summer job. But I was doing bad. You know what I'm saying? I
Right.
think we made
That
my
ain't get you nowhere.
my first adult job. I made $10. I was ABX. I was sorting mail, but it was part time. So,
Hmm.
like, you don't want your kids to have to struggle into adulthood, splitting dollar menu sandwiches like I was, because I didn't have the guidance, and I didn't have the way, and didn't have a plan. And the
Yeah.
plan wasn't academic; it was in life. You know what I'm saying? Who are you? What are you doing?
Hmm.
So for me, I think that that's important. Financial plan with your with your children, logistically and financially, have the emergency savings talk, and action applied to it.
Yeah.
Mentor and coach them into adulthood, instead of thinking they're like, "Oh, we're finally free." No, I ain't free
Hmm.
until you free, until I know that my son ain't struggling, until my son ain't working for his enemies, right? Like,
Hmm.
when shit gets serious, man,
Hmm.
they get one life to live, man, and you don't want your child to be 35 just understanding it, just getting it, just
Just
experiencing
getting
life. You know what I'm saying? And that's
it.
kinda
Hmm.
how I feel. It's like, "Damn, bro, I'm so delayed. I should have been great 10 years ago. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But
Right.
where the
That's
fuck was
why
I gonna get it from?
exactly. That's why that plan has to begin this generation when they
Yeah.
10. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So how thorough are we going to be? Because like I said, the later you wait, you know what I'm saying, the more hastily type of plan you're going to have, right? The
Yeah.
more hasty
My
type of plan. So that's why life hits people so fast when they turn 18 because they want to accomplish so much and be a part of so much so soon. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Without the preparatory things in
Like,
place, you know, they want their own ride. You know what I mean? They that
right,
comes with maintenance, that comes with gas, that come with insurance, you know, and however
right.
you want to deck your car out, you know what I mean? Or they want to do something special to
They
it. So
doing
it's just
all
so
of
many
that,
right.
but
It's
they
so
ain't
many
got no
things,
plan.
none,
I had
right?
22-inch rims and I was broke. You know what I'm saying? I was broke. I'm
Yeah,
doing bad. I was
yeah.
broke. Nigga, I had 22-inch rims and my gas was cut off.
On
You
that
know what I'm saying?
Mustang, right? On that
Yeah.
blue Mustang.
Yeah, man, it was a rough we had a rough little patch in it, well, after I got that Cadillac. It was man, we had some
On
rough
that white
times,
joint.
man. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
cold-blooded, but that was me not knowing what the hell to do with money. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? So, like, with my son, that's another thing, like, you gotta start them learning about money early because when they get 18, if you've taught them about money throughout their childhood, they might not need you to handle their money. They already got it. Like, my son has
yeah.
to invest my son gets $5 a week, and he has to invest one of his $5 every week. So right
Mm,
now, he's not actively managing an account. What he does is he volunteers to give $1 back, right? And I want
mhm,
him to always be thinking, give a fifth back, give a fifth back, give a fifth back.
mhm.
Now, I all I'm doing gonna do is put it in a liquid life insurance cash value policy that he
There
can
you
gain
go.
interest and compound interest on. And so by the time he's about to leave the nest, by the time he's 18, hell, he got $100,000 he can borrow from. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? If he
right.
needs
They
some,
got
he
that
got some
cash
money.
value, right?
You know what I'm saying? But he
With that
can,
time elapsed, yeah,
yeah.
you got
But
it right.
he'll have compound interest investment accounts and a financial net worth when he's 18 that he'll finally get to manage himself because of the work that I'm doing to train him about how to manage those things for the next he's 7 for the next 11 years and even beyond. But we talk about
Mhm,
18 here for the next 11 to 15 years while we're setting it up now and he's making the money now, he's investing the money now. The next 15 years is training about how to use that money, how to manage that money. So
mhm,
even if you don't know who the hell you are, what you want to be, what your passions are, you still don't have to work for your enemies. You still don't have to go be oppressed. You still don't have to go survive. You still don't have to go beg somebody for some shit. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? Like, but
Right.
we put our kids in these positions because we don't know shit about finance. We can't teach them shit about finance. And when I had my first son, I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to be more. I just wanted to be greater because I had to
Had
pass
to.
on
Yeah,
something. And so
yeah.
I didn't know a lot of shit, but I learned it because I needed to be able to give it to him like it wasn't given to me. And
Mhm.
we have to start doing that from the very beginning. And even if our kids are 16 years old, you better get your ass over there and Google something so you can teach your son, so you can teach your daughter, so you can guide them. It ain't
Absolutely.
never too late to learn, to become greater, to have a wider, bigger,
Hell,
broad
learn
bandwidth.
together. It ain't never too
Absolutely.
late, right? If they at the
Absolutely.
age that they can understand and comprehend some of the same things, go over it together. You know what I mean? Hey,
Collaboration.
we doing a book club on,
Mhm.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Boom. You
Yeah,
learning as I'm learning,
collaboration.
so we can right, so we can better help each other during these times. And like I said, it's a very thick conversation, right? So many different nuances and aspects of it. Um,
Mhm.
but like I said, it starts with you know very scrutinized planning, right? You really have to because
Mhm.
sometimes you got to go back to the drawing board, like, okay, that's not gonna work. Some things came up. Let's adjust. Let's do some things moving forward a little
Yeah,
differently because of boom, 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 right? Um,
yeah.
so it's very key, man. It's because our parents they didn't have the knowledge. It was too late, or they had different priorities, right? Um,
Mhm.
the
I don't
culture was different. Go ahead.
I don't want my son to get to be 18, 20, 30, and be trying to break generational curses. The shits is broke.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
broke with me, damn it. So all he
Mhm.
gotta do is just keep this shit going. he ain't got to figure out how to do something that hadn't been done. How to
Yeah.
break the spiritual bond on his family for impoverished environments and shit like that. Like we, if your kids are trying to figure out how to break generational curses, man, you ain't did something, man. You fucked up as a
Right.
parent. You missed a spot, right, so to
Yeah.
speak. And so while it might not always be your fault, because you're a result of generational curses to a degree, especially in the black condition, is something that you need to really consider how you break that generational curse through the collaboration in your child's adulthood homecoming, man. And I don't
Yeah.
know.
This is big, man.
Yeah.
This is big. So, hey, if you enjoyed what we've discussed, if you want to add to it, hit us up in the comment section. Let's continue this conversation. Even more. There's some things I'm sure we haven't touched on. It's a lot that goes into this conversation, right? But we at the end of the day, you got to plan now. We
Right
should have
now.
been ahead of this, years ago, right?
Right now. Yesterday.
And right, and then in putting, like I said, putting these things, making it actionable plans, things that you're willing to do, is realistic, right?
Hmm.
Things you're going to actually implement and hit these milestones, right? Because sometimes we get overwhelmed, like, hey, I ain't even got myself together as a parent. Start with a little bit. It ain't got to
Hmm.
be astronomical. Just start small, build on it, right?
Hmm.
They got to learn in very small increments at a time, and it'll get better. It'll get better. Just got to do something now. It's
Yeah. And
imperative, man.
the financial education. If there are two giant takeaways from this conversation, it's imperative to give your child financial education. If you can't, because you don't have it, go get it so you can give it to them.
Yeah,
And then you have to prepare them to learn how to chase, discover, and live their passions and their purpose. And if you can do that between financial education and living in your purpose, your child, you don't have to worry about your child. Your child gonna be all right if they got purpose and they got financial education and they good financial stewards through your training. They gonna be straight. You know,
that's
those are the
right.
two things that prepare us for adulthood: is knowing who we are and knowing how to manage money, because we all have to deal with money.
Right, and how to make it right. The
Yeah,
different
yeah.
streams. You know what I'm saying? That's accessible. The different ways to make money. The passive income, the residual. Money off royalties, earned income, dividends.
Mhm.
Get all that. Give them all the game. Even if you ain't got the game, know where they can go get it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So very very good show, man. Yeah, so if you have any inquiries, hit us up on Gmail, the Fatherhood Village at Gmail. All right, hit us on social media. You see it scrolling on the screen. All right. So again, we appreciate y'all for supporting the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends, tell your mom and them, everybody. Tell them to get on with the Fatherhood Village. All right. So hey, without further ado, I'm your boy Dale Holloway. That's Kev Hick. Peace and love.
Peace and love.